Well, probably the less said, the better. What happened is we had, after I'd come to the anchor chair, we did pretty well on our ratings for a while. And when the next season, the 1982 fall season started, we did much better than had been projected we would do. There's a mythology that we plummeted to third and stayed there. Well, not true. That every year in October when the light changes, when the time changes, there's a volatile audience. But we actually had done very well with the broadcast. And we had, at one time, a record run of, I think, 220 or 30 straight broadcasts, straight weeks. We had 200-plus straight weeks in which we led in the ratings. And this was not long after I'd come into the anchor chair. Having been told we might go to third and stay there for two years or so, we were naturally pleased about it. Then suddenly one day, I was taken out to lunch by the president of Vision. He said, trouble's coming. Nielsen, which measures the ratings, is going to a different way of measuring the ratings, and it's a way that's places CBS at a disadvantage. And you're now first, you've been first for a record time, but probably that's going to end. And it did. Nielsen went to what they call the books. No sense explaining. It was a whole new way of judging the audience. And because CBS News had a somewhat older audience, and for a lot of other reasons, not the least of which NBC was good, NBC for a fairly short period overtook us. And the pressure was on. Ratings pressure by this time in all of television was getting greater. So we were fighting to get back into first place in the ratings. And at the end of summer, was it 1986? I think it was. At the end of summer, the tennis tournament, which CBS News covers, the U.S. Open, held here in New York, we were beginning to come back in the ratings, and you could see it week by week. We were coming back, having been out of first for a fairly short time. See it week by week. But the tennis tournament, which CBS is obligated to cover, but for certain games they have options. At any rate, it was the week that we thought we could get back into first, and the overnight ratings had been good. And I'd like to tell people we didn't pay attention, but of course we paid attention because our bosses paid attention. And that our broadcast in the East was at 6:30 p.m. The tennis tournament, they had the quarterfinals. I believe this is correct. The quarterfinals of the women's part of the tennis tournament. And it went on forever. It started like at 2 o'clock. It was one of these marathon games. And a lot of our local stations had cut away from it, just saying this thing has gone on forever. We're not going to care, because they wanted to carry their local news. But we could see that it might knock us off the air at 6:30. And we were concerned about it, for no apology. I shouldn't have been in the anchor chair and managing editor of the Evening News, managing editor of the CBS Evening News. I wasn't concerned about it. But we frankly couldn't imagine it going all the way to 6:30. Well, by the time we came to about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 6 o'clock, it was pretty obvious this thing was going to run either right up to us or right over us. And I saw this as number one. Well, the networks needs to decide. Is the quarterfinals, if I'm right about that, maybe it's the semifinals, but if the quarter semifinals of a tennis tournament, is that more important than news? That's the way we tried to frame it. We got nowhere with that. It was the tennis tournament is going to, it's going to run. It probably won't run over at 6:30. Anyway, the minutes went by, and my feeling was, look, if tennis is going to run over into our time, that is into our regular scheduled time, 6:30, then we should have tennis fill until the hour. And we'll come up at 7 o'clock. We had 2 feeds of the broadcast. I know it was kind of complicated, but it was, look, if they're going to eat into us at 6:30, then they should carry it the rest of the way. I don't want to do a truncated version of the evening news. Yes, that would hurt us in the ratings, but also it's hard to do. We were on the road. We were in Miami, which was part of it. But anyway, I made it clear that either come to us at 6:30 or to have tennis take it the rest of the way, and we will come up at 7 o'clock. And I thought there was a clear understanding for that. Well, 6:30 came, and the tennis tournament was still on. They didn't come to us, and I was disappointed in it. Was I irritated about it? Yeah. And we were in Miami with our, if you will, mobile anchor thing, and we were in front of a lot of people. There were visitors. We had a big room full of people. So when tennis didn't come to us at 6:30, and quite honestly, I felt that our leadership at the time, news leadership, had let us down. Didn't think that they had fought hard enough for us and framed it correctly. And also, I'm probably wrong with it. I thought they kind of ducked. But at any rate, at 6:30 comes. So I want to talk to New York. Okay, what do we do now? I don't want tennis coming to us 10, 15 minutes into the broadcast. But I'm not going to stand here in a room full of people in front of guests and everybody else and discuss the intricacies of this. So I took my microphone off and told Tom Bataille, who was executive producer of the broadcast, I want to go and talk to the news president about this, and I need to have a private phone on which to do it. He said, well, there's a private phone down the hall. Now, when I went down the hall to make the telephone call, the tennis people, and there's some dispute about this, but this is what I was told, this is what I believe happened, sort of, they ended the tennis tournament, and okay, they want it, just throw it to them. And somebody somewhere said, well, wait a minute, we got, and because we were on the road, tennis was that thing. Normally it'd be somebody in a central control room, but there wasn't a central control room. So they threw it. Black came up on the screen. This was a debacle all the way around. That while I was off in this other office, make the phone call, it went to black. And it was black up on the screen because sports had they'd abruptly just said, okay, they wanted the airtime, here you are, there it is, thank you very much, and left. We couldn't reach anybody at sports. That I'm not sure that it was deliberate. I've been told a number of times since then it was, but I'm not sure of that. I really think that it was one of those situations where everybody was trying to do the right thing, and it didn't happen. So black came up on the screen. Tom Bataille came and down the hall, direction I was, and said, well, it's black on the screen. How could it be? I mean, we told them not to come to us, and we had. Told them if they could come at 6:30, don't come to us until I can talk to the president of CBS News, and also kind of work out, which is commonly done before and after that. Fairly good relationships between news and sports, but fair to say was was a disaster that black stayed up on the screen, and it was not a good moment for us.